Thank you all so much for being here. I'm so excited about this one. I hope you are too. It's no surprise that dupes are one of the most polarizing topics in the beauty industry today. But however you feel about dupes, there's no denying that they have become an integral part of the beauty industry ecosystem. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. So how can brands adapt to and potentially benefit from this new reality? Today's panel will explore how brands on both sides of the dupe equation can thrive in today's era of dupe dominance. I'm joined by Ryan Babenzien, founder and CEO of Jolie, Meridith Rojas, CMO of MCoBeauty, and Sergio Tache, founder and CEO of Dossier. To set the stage for our conversation, I'm curious where each of you stand on what we call the dupe spectrum. On one end, there's a view that dupes undermine original innovation and creativity, while on the other end of the perspective is that dupes democratize access and ultimately benefit the industry ecosystem as a whole. Tell me, where do each of you find yourselves on this spectrum? Ryan, let's start with you.
Oh, you're going to start with the anti-dupe guy? That's my role here on stage today. I really do think there is a spectrum of dupes, and not all dupes are necessarily bad. I think where it gets dangerous, and I'll just speak about our market in particular, Jolie is the market creator of the filtering shower as a beauty wellness tool. We now have many people that are duping this idea. And where the danger comes is there's a particular product called Afina, and they're taking our clinical trial data, our lab data, and republishing it as their own. Well, that's illegal, okay? So in that example, if they're willing to do that, then do you trust a product? I can't even call them a brand, because if they're doing that, would you trust them to what's in the filter itself, right? They're making claims that are not theirs, publicly with advertising. So that's where dupes get dangerous. And in the case of somebody that's got eczema who's trying to remove chlorine to help their eczema, a product like that may not work. So that's the dangerous part of dupe land, and I'll leave it there.
Okay, Meredith, what about you?
Like the other end of the spectrum is where I exist. But I agree that not all dupes, sorry, that's kind of loud. Not all dupes are created equally, and what MCoBeauty does is we believe that accessibility is a form of innovation. And so we take luxury prestige beauty and we make it accessible for a third of the cost in Target. We're the largest brand out of Australia. We've been in the US for just under a year, and I think it helps, the dupes that we do, helps the overall industry, and we can get into that more later, but I believe that dupes are something that are here to stay, and the consumer has spoken, and so I'm on the other side.
And Sergio, what about you?
So I guess
Sorry, I just realized I'm in the middle. This is
yes,
Not
unfair. It's a one against three. No.
totally surrounded. I guess we're somewhere in the middle. What we want to do is really be the perfume house of the next generation. We want to democratize great fragrances at great sense for everybody, and not just the lucky few who can fork out $150, $200 at Sephora. We have our impressions collection, which are impressions or dupes of famous scents that you know and love, and then we have our original collection. So the way we position ourselves is that whatever scent you like, whatever your profile is, whatever you want to discover, we will have something for you there. We have over 150 perfumes now. We want you to think of Dossier as your one-stop shop for great fragrances. If you like impressions, that's great. If you like originals, that's great too. That's how we position ourselves.
Ryan, you created your own viral moment tackling Jolie dupes head on. Can you share more about this strategy and the response from the consumer as well?
You're talking about the brand replacement?
Yes.
Yeah. It's not meant to be a viral moment, although it did go viral and got written about by a few publications. Because we feel there's danger by people that are willing to sort of make false claims and potentially, our fear is you buy this other product, it doesn't work, and this is a nascent market, right? The idea that you need a filtering shower for better skin and hair is very, very new, and we want to protect that idea. You buy a bad product, you get a bad experience, and that person then goes, I bought a filtering shower, it's all fake, it doesn't work. Well, for a bad product, that might be accurate. But for the right product, it's not. We provide value and filter out things that are hurting your hair and skin. So we just said, we're going to replace anybody that bought a competitive product, not a $5 version, but if you spend $100 on any other filtering shower brand and are not satisfied, we'll replace it for free. That's how confident we are in what we provide, and that's been a really successful campaign to let everybody know that we truly are the best in the category. So we're willing to stand behind it by replacing the thing that you don't like.
Yeah. Were customers really impressed with the quality of Jolie once they got it?
Yeah, we have a lot of metrics that measure customer success, but I think the one we look at the most frequently is what is our churn of our subscriber? We have the lowest churn rate of our subscribers in all of beauty, full stop. We are the highest retention beauty products in the world, in history, as far as we can tell. There's nobody that's ever been able to show us that there's somebody else that's had less churn, and that is an indicator of customer satisfaction. To us, the most important one.
Meredith?
I just realized, sorry, not to hijack.
Yeah.
Prior to this panel, someone I was talking to asked me, what is a dupe?
Oh.
So I think most of the people in this room know, but it dawned on me that like it's maybe not everyone. Like by show of hands, like does everyone know what a dupe is? Okay. There were a few people that didn't, and so I just want to make sure that before we even dive into the good stuff like that, we set the table for what.
Well, tell us, what is a dupe?
So a dupe is a lesser, usually not lesser quality, in some cases it could be, but it is a more accessible price point for a product. And it's very prevalent in beauty, and that's what we're talking about today. But we've seen dupes around forever. I just think that beauty has having a boom right now. We've seen it in fashion for decades, and it started in, not started, but one of the places it started was with generic medication, right? So there have always been other alternatives for people in different categories, but I think it's become a bit polarizing in beauty. However, it's clearly moving towards a place of no return of just the consumer wanting a more accessible price point for certain products.
So let's talk about MCoBeauty. So MCoBeauty has built its identity around being a dupe brand, creating affordable alternatives to luxury and high-end beauty products. This approach clearly resonated with customers because DBG Group recently acquired the company and valued the company at $1 billion with a B dollars, which challenges traditional notions about dupe brands and their market potential. So what is the recipe for dupe success? And what's that sweet spot for a dupe product?
So I think what's interesting about the beauty industry today is how fast everything's moving. And people don't have the budget to move as fast as their For You page. So in terms of being able to see a trending product or a new type of product, the entry to play in prestige is so high. There's new stuff all the time. We know fast fashion, but there's definitely fast beauty. And so I think we provide this opportunity to have our finger on the pulse. We're a community-focused, social-first brand that's asking the consumer what they want, what they can afford, and how we can show up for them. And so that's been a recipe that's been meaningful. So not every trend is a trend that we're like, we're gonna make this and put it to market, but you know, and I can't give away all of our secrets at the same time, but there's sort of this combination of listening to our consumer, seeing what has a bit of staying power, seeing where the barriers are, and you know, I think luxury overall, we've seen it's the consumer storming the castle a little bit, and however that makes people here feel, depending on where you are with luxury, it's just a reality of today and how consumers find products, right? If you say to a Gen Zer, hey, do you want to buy this? It's $20. I guarantee you they'll look on their phone and see if they can find it for 19. So you're constantly having to understand consumer behavior, understand what drives people, and so I think that's where we come into play is we're offering that, and we're not saying buy us, don't buy the name brand, because our customer, truthfully, is probably not the name brand customer. They're the target shopper. That's where we exist. That's where we're currently sitting on shelf, and that's just delivering a 360 high quality experience where it's not just the formula, but it's also a package and an experience.
And Sergio, what was your motivation behind creating Dossier, and how have the brand and its product offerings evolved over time?
Well, it started from a simple observation where you look in the industry and you tell yourself, there's got to be a better way of doing this. There's got to be a way of making these great products and great perfumes affordable for the 99% and not just the lucky few who can afford to go to Sephora and spend all that money. So that's how it started. We launched with our Impressions collection, and we started with 20 perfumes. We very quickly expanded to over 100 perfumes. And then we realized also there was a huge demand for niche fragrances. That was the next step of evolution. And then finally, we thought to ourselves, we want to be the perfume house of the next generation, so we also want to offer some of our creations and some of our thoughts about the perfume industry. So that's the next step for us, is the original collection and developing that. But the thought process was always, and I think it's a little bit to this point, is how can we make this more affordable for everybody when people want to build a wardrobe of perfumes? They don't aspire to a signature scent anymore. They want to have a perfume to go out, perfume to go to work, they want to explore. It's kind of hard to do when if you want to buy 3 perfumes, you have to fork out a couple $100. So that was the initial thought, and it's really to make this great industry and these fine fragrances affordable for everybody.
Dupes have always existed, to your point, Meredith, but right now we're experiencing a significant cultural moment where they're more accepted and more popular than ever. What factors do you think are driving this cultural shift, and why is it happening now? Ryan?
That's probably not the right question for me, but I'm going to try and answer it.
Well,
Look, you can go to Canal Street if you've gone there any time from 1990 to now. There's been dupes of everything. Those are counterfeit, so technically illegal, worst possible, just pretend Gucci, Hermes, whatever. So it's been around forever. I think there has been this movement, and I think generationally, where getting a dupe is not as bad as it used to, although I do think ultimately brand wins. Like anybody that's carrying a fake Hermes bag today aspires to have a real one. So they may be in the economic class that doesn't allow for that today, but if they ever get to the class, and this is again my belief or opinion, if they ever get to the class where they could buy a real Birkin bag, they're going to. And they're going to quickly get rid of their fake one, fake dupe, whatever you want to call it. And that's the sort of path to the real. So there's more fake Rolexes in the world than there are real ones, right? There's an example of probably the most duped product in the world. And if anybody wants to go to Canal Street today, they're out, all of them. You can buy a bunch of stuff. Again, I think everybody aspires to have the real on their way. They may buy dupes, but the point is that brand does matter here, and ultimately the brand is the one that's sustained the longest.
Meredith. So I think that social media has made it more culturally acceptable. I think that when I was a kid, there was a store called Payless Shoes, and you got a pair of shoes from that store, you wouldn't go into school and celebrate your new Payless shoes. You'd probably just wear them and not tell your friends about it. That sort of shame around buying something that isn't the name brand is evaporating at a rapid clip. And I think that people like Bethany Frankel, who's our chief value officer at MCoBeauty, and we work with her all the time, she's one of many. Nina Poole is another one who we work with, who just tells the community, hey, you can celebrate this. You have the choice. I have an Hermes bag that is real, and I have a pair of Zara shoes on. And I feel great about my high-low choices. I don't feel like I have to hide what I choose to spend my money on. I know that's my choice, And we want our consumers to know they have that choice too, and we're not going to alienate them because they don't have enough money to get a full face at Sephora. You know, if they want to save their money and get a product that is really important to them to have on them, great. We celebrate that. We celebrate at the end of the day them and their choices. And I think that social media is saying, hey, you get to choose. You don't have to feel so forced to front anymore. Like, you can just be real about what your choices are, and none of them are bad.
Sergio, what do you think?
I mean, one of the reasons that Meridith mentioned is just the perception of the word dupe has dramatically changed over the last, call it 10 years. It was something that was frowned upon, you kind of hid, and now people are embracing it because it's smart. And I think part of it is because the younger generation don't necessarily associate high price point with high quality anymore. They're on to the game, and they do aspire for great quality at a more affordable price. And specifically in the fragrance industry, I just mentioned this, the concept of signature scent is going away. Take my mom. My mom, her perfume was Guerlain Champs-Élysées. She has a bunch of perfumes, and she always go back to that perfume. That concept is going away. People want to build a wardrobe of fragrances. So in our specific world, there's a whole discovery element to it. And what we feel strongly about is that Dossier is not value for value's sake, but value is a means to an end, and that end is discovery. May I ask you a question? Because you mentioned this, you were talking about counterfeits and dupes. Do you see a difference there?
I think they're on the spectrum. There is a difference, but counterfeit is the worst offender of a dupe, and then there's something in between, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Are there counterfeit beauty products, or is that more closely tied to fashion?
There's counterfeit Jolies.
That's true.
So, like, literally looks the same. The only thing it doesn't have is a Jolie. It doesn't say Jolie, but everything else looks the same. Then you get it, it's in a cardboard box, like craft paper, and the filter is not ours. Like, meaning it doesn't do what it's meant to do. And that's a concern.
So Ryan, this question's for you. In today's dupe-friendly culture, many consumers still seek out original brands. What do you believe drives this loyalty to originals, despite the proliferation of more affordable options?
Again, I think brand really does matter. In the end, at least for the long-term view, brand is what survives. And there's always going to be this spectrum of price point. If it was out of reach, we don't think we're out of reach for most people. We're $150, so we don't think that's, you know, a luxury investment, although it is on the higher end of all other filtering showers. But if it's something that you aspire to, brand is usually what makes it aspirational, right? It's not the price per se. The best brands are the ones that people want the most of. There's great brands that are accessible. I think Uniqlo is a great brand, and it's probably the most universal, you know, fashion brand out there, right? But it is high quality. It's still very well made for the price. But again, brand. It's a brand. There's stuff that looks just like Uniqlo, but it's not Uniqlo, and it's cheaper, and that's not as desirable as Uniqlo itself. So I think the brand is what drives demand in the end. And when people start getting into sort of replicating or copying or inspired by, it lowers the price. And I don't know either of your businesses, but obviously they're lower priced than whatever you're duping. And that's a different tier, and that's going to live, in your case, Target. I'm not sure where you distribute, but there's a need for that, right? That there is just a price point that audience is going to pay for. If that person graduated in income, they probably might buy the real thing. And like, I think all that's okay.
But I also think like a brand can be developed in today's market around having a dupe strategy. So 50% of our assortment is dupes, right? But the other 50% are not. Like, we have stuff, and I guarantee you someone's going to dupe this at some point, but we have this, which is a product, which is a lip gloss with a light and a mirror. So if I'm in the back of a...
But when somebody from China dupes that and sells it for $2, you're going to be pissed.
No, you know what? You know,
And they will.
No, but that's okay.
And that's really cool, by the way.
But that's okay. But I think that's the culture we're in, and I understand the sentiment as a person who like, I respect the originality, but I also think there's certain things that you have to just realize. Duped products actually, some brands want their products duped because once it's duped, it sells more. So I know it's a frustrating sort of friction point, but there's data to support that if something's duped, that there's more brand awareness, there's an entry-level experience, there's, you know, overall category growth.
I mean, a couple things that this whole duping culture has been existing forever. All you have to do is look at the high fashion, it's existed. This is absolutely nothing new. I do want to be very clear about the fact that, I mean, I disagree with you when you say we are counterfeit, because
I didn't say you were counterfeit.
you're on spectrum.
There was a spectrum, yeah.
The point being is our products are not illegal, and I want to make that absolutely super clear, because I think that is important.
Yeah.
And we do mention on our website, we don't shy away from it, we do mention that our perfumes are inspired by luxury scents, because we want to make that whole industry more affordable. But I do think there is a very important distinction to be made between quote-unquote dupes and counterfeit, which all you have to do, to your point, is go to Canal Street. I think that there's a fundamental difference there. We don't pretend we sell Chanel No. 5. We sell our own version of that. But I just want to make that difference, which I think is
No, I'm clear on that. I think probably the market is as well. You're not claiming to be Chanel, you just smell like it. And that's not illegal.
at an affordable price.
That's not illegal.
It's true.
Somebody selling a Chanel bottle with fake Chanel on Canal
That's
Street.
illegal.
That's illegal.
Yeah.
The spectrum is bumping here, right? That's like, well, they're claiming it's real, you're claiming it's not. You're just saying it smells like it. And again, like, you are operating in a very legal way.
Yeah.
That's the law.
There's black, white, and gray a little bit.
Yeah.
But
But this is not even gray, actually.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really not. I mean, that would mean a policy change. What is IP? If you develop a scent formula, how is that not protected? I don't know. I'm not in the scent business. I'm surprised it isn't. But maybe if it was one day, then you would be on the other side of legal, I'm assuming, because you're using the same ingredients, essentially.
Okay, not to go into legalese things, but we don't have the formula, so yeah, anyway.
Meredith, switching to you a little bit. You mentioned Bethany Frankel is your chief value officer. Can you talk a bit about how that partnership came to light?
Sure. So Bethany was on a trip to Australia. In Australia, we're the biggest beauty brand, so you can't miss us. She found it on her own. She's become this accidental beauty influencer, and she loves to tell you if it's worth it or if something's not worth the spend. She clearly has the money to buy whatever, but she likes to go high-low, and she likes to tell her community, which has become her social currency, she even just created a brand called The List, where she's putting all of this stuff that she's recommending and curating. So I think she found the products, she loved them. It was organic video. She's talked about it on and on and on. We formalized our partnership, and we're like, we want you to be involved. She helped with our pricing strategy at Target. Everything's under $15. She is about to post, I guess, or maybe did 30 minutes ago, that tomorrow's National Dupe Day. We just made that a holiday. And our next campaign is It's Not a Dupe, It's a Dupe. So we're just having fun with it. When you think about a brand, right? Like, a brand is a community, and our community is not mistaking us for the products we're duping, and we have a personality, we have brand DNA, we have a sense of humor, and we're delivering our community things that they're asking for. So we're not trying to be who we're duping, we're actually quite different. And I think we're just having fun with this thing that is polarizing, and we've been pretty brave and bold, and a lot of people are like, how can you dupe packaging? Because we dupe 360, and people are just like, what? And we, yep. And it's allowed, and we're doing it, and so some people don't like it, but in today's world, you can't be, in my opinion, it's really hard to build a brand and be not everyone's gonna like you, right? So I'd rather stop the scroll and get the people that love us and be okay with a few haters. And so far it's worked for us, and we're leaning into the fact that dupes are a part of who we are, and we feel like we're the dupiest dupes.
Sergio, Ryan alluded to this a little bit, but fragrance is a category where many brands are built by creatives, but there is no IP protection for their creations. And the niche fragrance community has been really vocal about this, and consumers have created, categories on TikTok, Perfume Talk, dedicated to discovering these affordable alternatives. So, what do you believe drives this unique tension in fragrances compared to other luxury categories? And how did Dossier position itself within this ecosystem?
So, as you said, the fragrance industry is a little bit in this particular situation where there's no IP afforded to any creation that a perfumer makes. So you have that situation. On the other hand, you have huge communities, to your point, of people who just aspire to smell nice on a date and don't want to break the bank to do that. So how do we combine both? It's not easy, and we're well aware of that tension within Dossier. And look, we don't claim on our impression side, we don't claim to be original artists. What we do want to do is to offer a affordable alternative for people who want to smell nice. That's really the position we've taken. And more importantly than that, we want you, as I mentioned to you in the beginning, we want to be considered as your one-stop shop for any fragrance that you might like. Through our offering, whether it's on the impression side, on the original side, we want to be considered as the perfume house for the next generation, where people can discover great fragrances made in France at an affordable price. And I think, Walmart, because we're distributing Walmart in all their stores, I think they saw something there. And clearly, I think, at least from my point of view, in our industry, the market has spoken.
And then Ryan, for you, innovation is often followed by imitation. It's just what happens. So what advice would you give to other founders that fall in the camp of innovation, as Jolie did? How did you protect what you've created without getting distracted by imitators?
I truly believe brand is ultimately the thing that values things very differently. And not knowing, again, either of their businesses, I truly don't. But whatever the dupe is, the original is multitudes bigger, right? So just let's use Chanel No. 5, because the size of that business is massive compared to multiple dupes that are replicating that scent, right? I would imagine all dupes together are still smaller than the original.
I think
not true.
Maybe
not.
$1 billion, so.
But brand really matters here. So what we do is just we look forward, and if people are copying, I'm going to use copying, which is the most offensive word out of the dupe spectrum. But if people are copying us, it means they're always going to be behind us, and that's just fine. So we'll continue to innovate and brand the business and build a real community around our brand. There will be dupes with smaller communities, usually driven by a different price tier, and we just don't look backwards.
Yeah. There's 6 billion searches on TikTok for dupe, right? So I think there's the good, bad, and ugly, but I just want to make a point that the communities around even MCoBeauty is a real community, and I don't think it's lesser than any of the brands that are in our portfolio that we've been inspired by. So I think the aggregate of what we're pulling together isn't about being bigger, right, than one of those brands, but in terms of the volume we can do, because we're basically bringing luxury to mass. And all of the people who have been sort of priced out, and that emotional feeling that you can't sit with us of luxury beauty, we're just saying, you're our +1. We're going to take you everywhere with us. And that has resonated in a really big way in today's world with our Gen Z consumers.
Okay, last question, rapid fire answer and short response. Do you believe the overall impact of dupe culture has been positive or negative for the beauty industry as a whole?
Positive?
Meredith? Yeah. Ryan?
I don't know, so I truly don't know.
Okay. Sergio?
we've made the industry bigger. We've brought in new people to the market who discover these fragrances and all of these beauty products, and I think that's a good thing.
Great. Well, we can now open the floor for questions. If there's anyone that has any questions for our panelists, I see one over here. Can we bring a mic to her? And I see one back there. Someone can bring some mics. We have one coming.
Hi, I'm Alexis. I'm the head of marketing at Shell Hoop Group. We do beauty innovation, so I think it's a very interesting topic that you guys have touched on. And obviously,
Do you want to take my seat?
not right now. Thank you so much. But you did a great job. I think offering similar formulas at an affordable price point is obviously there's a market for it, right? But I guess how do you justify or feel comfortable with replicating the brand identity or sometimes even the packaging and leveraging the equity of these brands that have taken significant budget and time to actually build? How does that sit with you?
That's me. Yeah.
Everyone, go for it.
I don't think this one's for me.
I can kick it off. The way we position ourselves is obviously we don't shy away by saying and mentioning the original brand. We mention and we're done. But if you look at the branding that we've done, we have a unique bottle, we have a unique look, and for us it's all about going back to the actual liquid inside the bottle, the perfume, and not about the fancy packaging and the fancy bottle and the celebrities endorsing the perfume. So for me, Dossier represents a return to what fragrance should be, which is about the scent and about the ingredients, and that's what we focus on. We have a simple but elegant bottle across all our collection, and that's how we've decided to market our products.
I don't think it's the same customer. And so I feel that we're providing accessibility as a form of innovation. Everything we do is legal. Everything we do, it's polarizing. Certainly people feel a lot of feelings about it, but it is something that has shown product market fit and the consumers have demanded it. And I think at the end of the day, in today's world, it's up to them. And so if that is something that there's a need for, and we're certainly not the only brand offering it, I look into what the demand is, and I think we're able to reach that.
Thank you. And over here?
Hi, this is for Meridith. I'm on the manufacturing side, so I actually have a lot of perspective on this topic. Assuming, I kind of look at Dupes as private label, which has been around for a long time, and there's compared to in stores. So you can go to Walgreens and buy an Advil. That's the Walgreens brand, the Advil brand. There's probably 20 different brands. But in that case, they are going through a certain process and certification process to have the compared to on the label. Whereas it seems with MCO, I don't see the compared to on the label, and it is leveraging, like packaging, which a lot of brands also have trademark or trade dress protections on. So I guess my question to you is, how do you feel about the traditional compared to model, and why don't you look into something like that?
So this is a brand that so these are founders. I'm not a founder of MCoBeauty, and so when I came in, I came to expand it to the US. So I was handed a model that worked really well in Australia, and I was asked to imagine how to bring it to the US market. So I wasn't in the sort of room making that decision, but that's the brand that I signed up to market. We don't infringe upon any trademark, trade dress, any of that. Yes, it is similar, but again, what I say is, you look at fashion and you look at Zara and you look at H&M, and there's been a lot of instances across other industries where things have been created in a dupe format, and people just became used to it over time. In beauty, we're probably the most bold with dupes, and so there is that scrutiny and there is that sort of reaction to it. But that model for our consumer is working, and you know, we've found a way to sort of create a brand and bring it to life in that way.
And I think that's all of our time here today. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Ryan, for being a great sport.